Overlord Volume 8 Side 1, 2 halves. Retranslated by Nigel Proofed/edited by Deus Ex Machina Part 3. As the name implied, the fortress city Irantal was surrounded by 3 concentric rings of fortified walls. Of the gates set into those walls, those on the outermost walls were the thickest and most solid of them all, and they radiated an air of strength and weightiness. It was a common sight to see travelers on the street staring open-mouthed at the gates of the city that was said to be able to repulse any invasion the empire made. And the people on the streets had surely made similar expressions in the past. Besides, these gates were customs inspection posts, manned by several soldiers who were relaxing just out of the direct sunlight. Although some people might have asked if it was all right for the soldiers of a city near the front line to be so relaxed, the truth was that the troops at the inspection posts were there to vet travelers. Their job was to uncover contraband and spies from other countries, so they had nothing to do when nobody was entering the city. As a result, the currently idle soldiers, though they maintained discipline instead of passing their time by playing cards, could not resist the urge to yawn. Though they looked slack for the moment, but when they were busy, they were very busy. In particular, the sheer amount of work they had to do in the morning, just after the gates opened, practically defied description. With the sun at its highest point in the sky, the travelers began appearing on the streets in small groups, scattered sparsely among the other pedestrians. It was only natural that people would travel in numbers, given that this was a world inhabited by monsters. When they show up in force. We're going to be busy soon, thought the guard, who was idly contemplating the streets from his window. His eyes rested on a wagon about to enter the street, waiting for some pedestrians to pass. A woman sat on the driver's seat. He could not see anyone else on the uncovered wagon bed. She was traveling alone. She was unarmed and unarmored. From that, the guards concluded that she's just a village girl. Even as he thought that, the soldier tilted his head as he promptly second-guessed himself. People from the nearby villages were hardly a rare sight here. However, a woman traveling by herself was a different matter entirely. Even the area surrounding Irantal was not completely free of bandits and monsters. Thanks to the efforts of the legendary adventurer Team Darkness, most of the dangerous monsters and bandits had been wiped out. But most did not mean all, and there were still mundane beasts like wolves and the like to look out for. This situation was not unique to Irantal, it applied to all of the other cities as well. And come to think of it, could girls travel by themselves? Perhaps she had outrun a bandit encounter, but he did not sense any tension or nervousness from her at all. She looked to be at ease, as though she knew her journey would be a safe one. What kind of girl was she? The soldier shifted his now suspicious gaze to her horse, and that was when his confusion deepened. The horse was exceptional, not something a mere village girl would have. Its condition and coat reminded him of a warhorse. Warhorses were extremely valuable. Even if one could actually raise the money to buy one, a normal person would not be able to acquire one easily. Leaving aside monstrous mounts like wyverns and griffins, warhorses were the pinnacle of steeds. A normal person would need money and connections to obtain such a warhorse, and a simple village girl would not have either. It was also possible that she had stolen the horse from its original owner, but anyone who stole such a valuable item would be hotly pursued and targeted for retribution. This was why bandits did not dare attack people mounted on warhorses. In short, after considering all the visible evidence, the chances that she really was a simple village girl were very low. So who was this person posing as a village girl? The fact that she was traveling alone hinted at her true identity. In other words, she was very confident in her abilities, and those abilities were not limited by the fact that she chose to dress as a village girl by her gear, or lack thereof. With that in mind, it was likely that she was a magic caster, since their equipment and power rarely matched their appearance. That was an answer he could accept. If pressed for the reason, it was because magic casters, or adventurers in general, were wealthy and connected, so obtaining a warhorse would be easy. Is that a magic caster? His partner beside him had gone through the same thought process. Might be, the soldier furrowed his brow and answered. Magic casters were very irritating people to inspect. To begin with, their primary weapon, magic, was an internal thing which was invisible to the naked eye. In other words, the guards could not tell what weapons magic casters were armed with. Secondly, they might be smuggling dangerous items with their magic, and finding those was hard. Thirdly, they usually had a lot of specialist baggage, so checking them all was troublesome. Honestly speaking, he hated dealing with them. Because of that, they had a man on loan from the Magicians Guild, after paying a suitable fee, of course, to help them out. However, do we have to bring that guy out? I don't want to. It can't be helped. If we clear her through and anything happens, it'll be troublesome. It would be nice if she just dressed like a magic caster to begin with. Carrying a weird staff, wearing a weird robe? Yup. At least you'd know someone was a magic caster. Either that, or we force everyone in the Magicians Guild to carry some proof of membership, like adventurers. The two soldiers got up as one, laughing to each other. This was to welcome the girl who might be a magic caster. Under the watchful eyes of the soldiers, the wagon rolled up to the door and stopped. The girl disembarked. Her forehead was slick with sweat, but she seemed used to traveling under the sun. Her sleeves and slacks were long to ward off sunburn. Her clothes did not seem expensive or well-tailored. No matter how you looked at her, she was a simple village girl. However, one could not judge a book by its cover. She could be hiding something. Their job was to find out what that was. The soldiers carefully approached the girl. "We'd like to ask you a few questions. Could you come with us to the checkpoint?" They spoke with gentle tones and expressions. They were trying to send the message that they were not wary of her, so she could lower her guard. "Sure, I don't mind." The soldiers escorted the girl to the checkpoint. In order to protect against the use of charm, spells and other forms of mental manipulation, 2 more soldiers followed at a distance of several meters. The others watched her carefully, wary of any suspicious movements. The girl tilted her head several times, as though sensing the tension in the air. "What's wrong?" No, nothing's wrong." Someone who could notice the minute changes in the air could not possibly be an ordinary person. The guards brought her into the checkpoint with that in mind. "Then, could you sit down there?" "Yes." The girl sat in one of the chairs provided in the small blockhouse. "Let's start with your name and place of birth." "Yes. My name is Henry Amat. I come from Karn village, near the great forest of Taub." The soldiers exchanged looks, and one of them stepped out of the blockhouse. He was going to check the register for any matching records. In order to manage its residents, the kingdom kept records of them in the form of registers. That being said, the registers were crude affairs, and the relevant details of birth and death were updated very slowly, if at all. Someone had once estimated that there were tens of thousands of mistakes in them. As a result, relying too heavily on the registers would be a bad idea, but even so, they had their uses. This register was muddled, but it had a lot of entries, so searching it would take a long time. The soldiers understood this, and decided to try and take care of something else in the meantime. "Then, in place of the toll, could I see your permit?" Normally speaking, everyone who entered a city had to pay a toll, something like a walking tax. However, charging residents this money would cause trade to grind to a halt, and as a result every village was issued travel permits with which they could enter the city free of charge. Of course, as there were different nobles in each region, there were different rules for each region too. Let me see, here it is. The soldier stopped Henry from fishing through her bag. We'll do that. Could you give us your bag?" Henry handed it over without protest. The soldiers carefully searched the insides, and found a parchment. They unrolled it on the table so everyone could see. Although the literacy rate amongst kingdom citizens was very low, it was a given that every soldier stationed at a checkpoint could read and write. Or rather, they were here precisely because they were literate. "I see. Well, it looks all right. This is definitely the permit issued to Karn village. I have confirmed this." The soldier rolled the parchment back up and returned it to the bag. "Next, state the reason why you came to Erantal." "Yes. Firstly, I'm here to sell the medicinal herbs that we've picked. The soldiers looked outside at the wagon, whose urns were currently being searched. Could you tell us the names and the amounts of the herbs you're selling? 4 urns of Nakuri, 4 urns of Agina, and 6 urns of Enkaishi. 6 urns of Enkaishi, you say? That's right. A look of pride spread over Enri's face. The soldier understood why. After all, when manning a checkpoint, one eventually picked up a working knowledge of medicinal herbs. Enkaishi was a herb that could only be gathered during a very short time frame, but it was a major ingredient in healing potions. The demand was very high, and thus the price was always good. If she had 6 urns like she said, that meant that she would have a lot of money when she sold them off. Then, where do you plan to sell them? I was planning to sell them at the former residence of Madame Berar. Berar? You mean the herbalist Lizzie Berar? Although she did not live there anymore, Lizzie had been the most important person in Irantal's pharmaceutical business until recently. If she had a business relationship with the Barriers, that meant Lizzie trusted her very much. Then, there's no need to pry deeper, the soldiers thought. The truth was that although their job was to stop dangerous things from entering the city, investigating these things once they entered the city was no longer their problem. The soldier nodded with a grunt, then glanced at Enri's face. She had spoken quite normally until now, and they did not sense that she was lying. Once the cargo inspection was complete, their job would be over. At this moment, the soldier who had just returned nodded his head. That was to say, a girl called Enri was recorded in the register. However, that record simply said that there was a girl called Enri born in Karn village. Without any guarantee that the person in front of them was the real Enri, there was also no proof of the kind of life Enri had led. Perhaps during her travels, she had acquired some powerful magic, or she had died in her journey, and some criminal was using her name. Because of that, they needed to perform one final check. Understood. Then, call him over. The soldier nodded and left the blockhouse. After this, we will be examining your body. Is that all right? A surprised expression dawned on Enri's face. The soldier hurried to qualify his words. Oh, it's not because there were other problems. I'm sorry, but these are the rules. And we won't do anything weird to you, so don't worry. If that's how it is, then I understand. Seeing that Enri was okay with it, the soldier sighed with relief. He did not want to be the one to anger a possible magic caster. The soldier who left returned once more, this time with a man trailing behind him. This man was a magic caster. His nose protruded like an eagle's beak, while his thin face was sallow and pale. His body was wrapped in a black robe that looked very hot. His sweat flowed freely, and his claw-like hands tightly clutched his gnarled staff. Personally, the soldier felt that he should have shed the robe if it was so hot, but the magic caster liked that style, and stubbornly refused to change his clothes. Perhaps that was why the room's temperature seemed to rise by a few degrees when the magic caster entered. So it's this girl then? The magic caster spoke calmly, which his soldier escort found strange, as usual. Although he seemed to be a man in his late 20s, his extremely hoarse voice made it impossible to determine how old he was by sound alone. Was it that his appearance was abnormally young, or that his voice was abnormally hoarse? Enri turned a surprised look at the magic caster who had replaced the soldier. In his heart, the soldier thought that her surprise could not be helped. After all, he too had been frightened the first time he saw the man. This is a magic caster from the Magician's Guild. He's going to perform a simple check, so please wait. The soldier gestured to Enri to remain seated, and then nodded to the magic caster. I'll leave this to you then? Of course. The magic caster took a step toward Enri, and then he cast his spell. Detect magic. After that, the magic caster squinted his eyes. He looked like a beast sizing up its prey. Yet, Enri remained calm despite being subjected to a gaze that rattled even the soldiers, who were used to this sort of thing. As they saw this, all the soldiers could think was no wonder. Someone who could remain calm under such a mighty gaze could not be a simple village girl. At the very least, she must have had experience in life or death struggles against monsters or people who wanted to take her life. The sight before them only cemented the impression in the soldiers' hearts. You can't deceive my eyes. You're hiding a magic item. It's on your waist. Henry heard it, and looked to her waist in surprise. The soldiers immediately went on alert. They understood weapons like swords, but their knowledge did not cover magic items. You mean this? Henry produced a small horn from underneath her clothing, small enough that it could fit into both her palms. The soldiers might not have understood its significance even if they had seen it. Is that a magic item? That's right. You've been deceived by her appearance. That thing is imbued with powerful magic. The soldiers were speechless. If this was an item the magic caster considered powerful, then how mighty was it? As they began to think that the girl was dressed plainly for a reason, they felt as though a blade was piercing their chests. Ah, this is no need to speak. My magic will see through it. In order to shut Henry up, he cast another spell. Appraise magic item, Yuo. The magic caster's face went through several expressions in a few seconds. Initially it was shock, then fright, then terror, and then confusion. What is this? Even the word powerful fails to do it justice. Impossible. What on earth is this? The magic caster's face was red, and flecks of spittle flew from the sides of his mouth. What the devil are you? Don't try to trick me. The magic caster's sudden change in attitude took the soldiers by surprise, and Henry was no exception as her eyes widened. No, I'm just a normal person. A simple village girl. Really? A village girl? Why are you lying? Then, how could you have obtained a magic item like this? If you really are a simple village girl, how could you have gotten something like that? This is a gift from the one who saved our village. Ainsul Gaunsama lies again. A priest from the theocracy must have given it to you. What's that about the theocracy? Everyone. Fall in? There's something very wrong about this girl. Although the soldiers did not understand what was going on, up till today, they had never seen the magic caster react like this before. So if this were an emergency, they should drop whatever they were doing and respond to the summons. Fall in? Fall in? In response to the soldiers' shouts, several of their comrades stopped their cargo inspections and entered the room. You said someone else gave you this item? Nonsense. How did you get it? You can't possibly be a simple village girl. No, this really was given to me by Gaunsama. Please, you have to believe me. The soldiers looked between the two of them. The magic caster was a colleague of theirs, whom they had hired, and they wanted to believe him. However, given Henry's nervous reaction to the sudden change in the situation, they could not help but think she was a normal girl. What else is there? Tell me why you think she's suspicious. HNH. To begin with, this horn can summon a group of goblins, although I'm not sure how many it can call up, but it can do such a thing. The soldiers frowned. It would be troublesome if something like that was used on the streets. However, was that really a problem? Certain people, such as adventurers, possessed a plethora of magic items. It would not be strange for them to possess an item like this among their panoplies. And this so-called village girl's testimony is riddled with inconsistencies. That item is worth several thousand gold coins. Why would anyone just give it to a mere village girl? Several thousand? Several thousand? This unbelievable sum drew cries of disbelief from the soldiers and Henry herself. Several thousand gold coins was a sum no normal person could earn in their entire life. It was hard to believe such a simple-looking horn could be worth so much. That's right. Nobody would hand out such an item without a good reason, let alone to a mundane girl. I could accept it if she were a top-class adventurer or magic caster. But she says she's just a village girl. It's far too suspicious. That much the soldiers understood. Exceptional people would tend to gather exceptional items to themselves. In the past, both the great men of good and evil persuasions were known for their acquisition of powerful equipment. It was their destiny, and it was inevitable. No, really, I'm just a simple village girl. Besides, I've never heard of any Ains Olgown fellow. At least, he's not part of our guild, nor have I ever heard of an adventurer by that name. The warrior captain knows Gown Sama. The kingdom's warrior captain, Gazef Stronofdono? You must be uttering nonsense. How would a simple village girl know of such things? Because he came to our village. It's true. Go ask him and you'll know. It would be impossible to communicate with the warrior captain, who resided in the royal capital, from Irantal. More to the point, if she really was a simple village girl, it was unlikely that she would stay in the warrior captain's memory, so proving her identity would be hard. So what do we do? Detain her for now, then investigate her further. Given that she didn't conceal that horn, and was planning to take it into the city openly, she might not be a spy or a terrorist, but that is no guarantee. Henry looked around in a panic. She looked just like a normal village girl. If this was an act, she must have been a very good actor. Suddenly, one of the soldiers watching the perimeter exclaimed in surprise. At the same moment, a familiar voice rang out. We wish to enter the city, but what's going on? As they turned towards the voice, they saw a man wearing jet black plate armor. Uo. The soldiers and magic caster all exclaimed in surprise. Everyone in Irantal knew the man who wore that armor. The adamantite plate which swayed over his chest was the conclusive proof of his identity. He was a living legend, a man who made the impossible possible, the ultimate warrior. He was Mammon the Black. This is Mammon-sama. My sincerest apologies. Now, what's going on here, HM? This girl is. Yes. There was a suspicious girl, so checking her out took some time. We sincerely apologize for inconveniencing you, Mammon-sama. Henry, is it? Henry Amat? The air in the room seemed to freeze over. Why would a legendary adventurer know a village girl's name? Who are you? No, I am. You were the one who came with Nfiria that time, right? I don't remember speaking to you. Mammon put his hand on his chin, as though he was thinking. Afterward, he gestured to the magic caster, and they exited the blockhouse. Although the soldiers wanted to follow, they could not leave Henry alone. Eventually, the magic caster returned alone to the room, having calmed down. Let her go. That great man, Mammon the Black, has vouched for her with his status as an adamantite-ranked adventurer. In that case, think there's no point in keeping her here. What do you think? That's an obvious decision, but is it really all right? Is it really all right to doubt him, of all people? Oh, of course not. I get it. We'll grant her passage. Henry Amat of Karn Village, you are allowed to enter the city. You may go. Yes. Thank you very much. After bowing quickly to them, Henry left the blockhouse. As her back receded into the distance, the soldier turned to the magic caster. What about Mammon-sama? He left first. Then, what connection would that hero have with that village girl? Hell if I know. Mammon-dano told me what I told you, he vouched for her and asked that we let her go. Then, another question. That Amat girl. Do you really think she's just a village girl? Certainly not. There's no way she could be a simple village girl, otherwise why would a great hero like him help her? And it wasn't a coincidence she was carrying that item. Could it have something to do with the theocracy? That ain't something Gorther fellow. If he's from the theocracy, shouldn't we let the brass know? Frankly speaking, I don't know. After all, Mammon-dano already vouched for her. If we let the people on top know that someone he vouched for was dangerous, well, you'd be just doing your job, but do you really want to upset Mammon-dano? The soldier's face twisted. The heroic exploits of Mammon in the graveyards of Irantal were a common conversation topic when the soldiers gathered. The saga of how he hacked his way through a horde of tens of thousands of undead set the hearts of all who heard it ablaze. In addition, One could clearly see his heroic poise and actions even from afar. He had subdued a powerful magical beast with his incredible power, and his majestic riding style drove the soldiers mad for him. Just as women were attracted to strong men, many warriors admired Mammon the Dark Hero, and it could be said that most of the armed forces of Irantal were his fans. This soldier was one of them. As a fan of Mammon, just being patted on the shoulder by his idol was enough for him to boast about it to everyone he met. As such, he had no intention of upsetting the man he worshipped. There is that. Well, since Mammon Sama vouched for her, I guess it'll be fine. I think so too. If we treat a friend of Mammon Dano poorly, I don't think it'll turn out well. I guess all we can do is avoid rocking the boat. Anyway, let me know if anything else comes up. I'm heading back to my work too. Diamond suit, diamond suit, diamond suit. Henry drove the wagon with her back to the gate of Irantal's city gate, wondering what on earth had just happened. It would seem that man in the jet black armor, she remembered, that he was one of the adventurers who had come to Karn village with Nfiria to pick herbs, had helped her out of a tight spot. By right, she should have immediately gone to thank him, but unfortunately she had lost sight of him once she entered the city. If I thank him the next time we meet, will he forgive me? Although she was thinking that she should immediately start searching for him once she had the time, there were reasons why she could not. Those reasons currently troubled her. The only thing that put her heart at ease was feeling something through the barrier of her clothes. The horn of the goblin Hohatsit. This is worth several thousand gold coins? No way. Please tell me that's not true. She suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. She had not expected the horns she had been given so casually to be so valuable. No, Nfiria had said it was a high-end magic item, but the amount was beyond her imagination. Is it all right for me to use this item? Will it be okay? If she was asked to return the other one she had already used, what should she do? I'll need several thousand urns of herbs. I might not be able to afford it in a lifetime of picking herbs. In addition, she had another item worth thousands of gold coins. Is Gaon Sama a man who can give out such items so easily? Or maybe, he didn't know its value. No way. There's no way someone like him wouldn't know, but, if he didn't know, Henry's stomach grumbled and ached. She looked around her surroundings in suspicion. There were not many people around, but it was still several times more than in Karn village. Distasteful thoughts like, is anyone planning to steal this horn, rose up in her mind. If only I hadn't brought it out. There's a lot of crime here, right? What if the horn got stolen? Hang on, if the horn was blown and goblins showed up to make trouble, wouldn't that make me the criminal? Just as the cold sweat was pooling around Henry, a person descended upon the seat next to hers. The way she landed like a feather in defiance of gravity must have been magic. Who, as the surprise of seeing the newcomer faded, an even bigger surprise was awaiting her. She was a raven-haired beauty whose face could launch 1,000 ships. She was the one who had come with the black-armored adventurer to her village. Her ice-cold eyes resembled onyxes as they turned to Henry. Inferior creature, gadfly. Mammon-san wanted me to ask you a few questions. So pretty. Flattery will get as pretty as Lupusregina. As she saw the consternation in the eyes, which were looking at her, Henry immediately regretted the stupid things she had said. She probably did not even know about Lupusregina. However, there was nobody else who could even come close to the beautiful adventurer before her eyes. What should I do? I've upset her. Well, that much is clear, but... Lupusregina is a very pretty person in my village, thank you. Her eyes were hard, and so was her voice, and even her eyebrows were strained. But the thanks she had given was genuine. Ha! Mammon San has some things to ask you, which is why I came. Answer me. Why are you here? Henry had no obligation to answer. However, this was the partner of someone who had helped her. If he wanted to know, then she should answer. Well, before that, can I ask a favor of you? Mammon-san helped me earlier, and I'm very, very grateful. Please tell him that. I will do so. So why are you here? Yes, I'm here, because there's a lot of things that need to be done, for instance, selling the herbs. The woman gestured with her chin, indicating that Henry should continue speaking. Then, I'll go to the temple, to see if there's anyone who wants to move to our village to live. And then I need to go to the Adventurers Guild to talk about some things. And I need to buy some things we can't get in the village, like weapons. Something like that. I see. I understand what you've said. I will relay it to Momon-san. With ethereally graceful movements which seemed independent of gravity, the woman alighted from the wagon, and left without looking back. Henry's impression of her was that of a frozen hurricane which tore people apart. She's an amazing woman, she feels dozens of times more powerful than Brita-san. There were no girls in the village like her. Had she become an adventurer because her personality was like that, or had being an adventurer made her personality that way? She suddenly did not feel too keen about visiting the Adventurers